That's all. They're recording. Yeah. Okay, already about the song. They can't hear and they can't be heard. Wow. I can hear in the background. Everybody will listen. It's like Kelly. So people might think ours is that. It's hard to put that back there. It is, and it's smaller in the big room. Oh, the agenda. Yes. Right. And it's better what did he say? That. What were your mistakes? Yeah, exactly. Otherwise we fail. Right. Local amendments and state. So go ahead and exit out of that. Don't save. And then the WebEx. Yeah. Oh no, the WebEx actual meeting is that green thing. The green of the thing. That one? Mm-hmm. So then go up to share. Yeah. File. Thank you. Desktop. Look at building. There you go. That's it. Oh, yes, thank you.
Oh, is this on background? Got it. Thanks. Perfect. Oh, Hannah, thank you.
I'm sorry for the ugly writing.
I don't care if it's...
All right. I just figured out the movie.
Your writing's not ugly at all.
Well,
You just write fast. It's grad school writing. Law school writing.
And other, I got item number 2.
Yep.
I just wanted to bring up the shared facilities. Emergency exit. The deadline is Saturday to respond to it.
Absolutely.
Oh, not here. Very nice.
Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it. It's always nice to see you. All right. Just how many? Okay, or can we have is that last not last and then we read it in phase 1 that many acres in the county. Do you write that? Well, you can just write 0. Somebody's birthday?
little pick-me-up. The sugar? Yeah, I was like, oh, this is really good. Yeah, right there. Yeah, if we had been smart, we would have started assigning out, like, who brings snacks from the beginning. That was kind of silly of us, over really integral part of our functioning.
I know, especially when you're going all day like this.
Yeah. Jude, did you already write, did I ask?
Go ahead, ask again. I won't remember.
Public comments to the shared facilities?
Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna.
Okay.
We got some big. Yeah. No, it's not. It's Sunday of all things. Oh, it's the 6th. It's Friday.
Oh.
Yeah. Why would they make a deadline on last Sunday?
It's becoming 5 days. What is Sunday?
There's nothing in how long Isn't it one for me, they never told double for you, but in the ordinance, there's a section on 58 from a carbon boundary or
We talked about this at the planning commission, not this time, but the time before, and that's going to the board on Tuesday, potentially. I haven't looked at, I've never seen the board packet yet, but that was definitely an issue that was discussed. And, I'm trying to remember, there were too many sub-parts of this. So I think you gotta, look at what was, knew that, that's from, March 15th. And then there might have also been a discussion of it at not the last board meeting, but,
Yeah.
it's been an issue, but I would just install it and you make comments.
Okay.
Do you need
No,
a
I
borrow?
no, I can come over there.
Okay, good.
Okay, so it's in the works.
Well, I think that you, I don't, you need to put public comment in. If it doesn't come up in the way that you. Yeah.
A little bit just more than like 4
We dealt with this years ago, I guess a year and a half ago, with the original building, but that's a, publicly traveled private road. That's a definition for other purposes as well. So that's why.
Probably not.
Almost the same gang, huh?
Where's the oil?
True, you actually are.
Well, Kelly did the same thing, when we were not, that was, the, and I wrote availability of the mitigated negative deck for people to upload with their state license.
Okay. I'm going hunting my pen, which I don't know where it went. Does anyone have an extra pen I may borrow?
I did. Have you written up yours for, no, but what I did was over lunch, I wrote out what mine are gonna be. And then, I'll probably type them up. The only thing that I love so far, and I haven't put much time into it,
Is using what they do with ABC, is an associated provider, particularly that allows different winemakers to process using the shared facility. And
but that's allowed here. That's the whole point of it, but you see those, one is for the facility, and one is for the person who wants to use the facility.
well, the other license is to give all those manufacturers who share a facility facility
It's,
as well. Right?
well, it's actually a little, yes, but it's that the facility gets one license, a shared facility license, and then the manufacturing license, but specific to shared facilities.
Right.
And then anybody, without being tied to a physical place, can get a license to use the shared.
That's what this is. This is called an alternating proprietor.
They have it,
They have that in there?
well, it's not called that, but that's the effective thing.
So it's an analogy to like a commercial kitchen.
Yes, I mean, basically, they cover that.
That's what it is, because you can't do extractions. You can only butter and oil, so it's mostly bread.
But that's why they don't allow you to
Extractions, but you're saying because they don't allow, and I want to make a note about that, because they don't allow common, or even, volatile processes like that.
Is this,
If it did, I didn't see it, but they specifically said oil, butter, oil, and butter.
Yeah, well, but this, I'm sorry, I didn't get to my point. My point is that what you do with the AP is that you can all use it at the same time. You just have to have different, super strength.
That's my main comment. So you've got, in the they allow it at a what's that called?
Alternating proprietors.
And then there's the, what, the
ABC. In the handbook, that it allows them to small markets to
at the same time. Good, bye.
operate multiple holders operate on site.
Yeah, that was one of my main things, plus not requiring storage.
Yeah.
Storage, pre-scheduled.
Right. Yeah, those are the big ones that
all right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. We're a few minutes late, but we still don't have much of a crowd. We're almost the same group as last time. So I'll introduce myself. I'm Kelly Overton, Cannabis Program Manager. If we can, and I'm getting very good at this now, if we can go around and just say hello here, and we can do roll call.
Hello, Cannabis, and I'm working with Julia Carrera.
What's your last name?
Espinoza.
Espinoza. Okay.
Hi again, Hannah Nelson.
Tony Solarian.
And last time I bet. I'll get you this time. Hey.
Hi, I'm Prakash.
Linda Gray.
Hi, Linda. Now on here, Linda, but we're going to put you on here.
I'll just hear it.
Are you on the phone?
There is no one on the phone. At first, I thought maybe I had to, wasn't working, but there's nobody there. All right. So we have, I hope you have an agenda. They were back at the table. It's very simple, because if you weren't here for the last meeting, this is kind of a reboot. The working groups are going to be I'm going to kind of focus on taking care of the working groups and things to move forward and continuing them to move forward. So with that, to include room on the agenda for people to add things that I may have missed. So is there anything we would like to add to today's agenda? We have microbusiness, transferability, subs and or committees. What else needs to be on there? I think Hannah had something.
I had two things. I had the emergency regulations for shared facilities and our need to be prepared with a new manufacturing shared facilities ordinance for ourselves locally. And then secondly, the need for all cannabis business applicants for state need to be able to submit the mitigated negative deck for the CEQA processes and I would like it to be available on a website that people can download and upload.
So I added those two at points on other. What else do we want to add to that?
I don't know if he's, they're not what we're doing, only but, construction. The state is still playing with that, and she was unclear about whether they need to have webcams on the compost pile. I would hope that the town needed a little more realistic.
Mary Lynn. Hello, Mary Lynn.
She's got construction and disposal of waste.
Fee schedule, liability and bond.
Are these things we've discussed before? Things we're now wanting to add to what the working group?
They didn't touch on, I don't know how many steps we got
Okay.
into.
Is there anything on this list that we've been working on that I have not included?
We talked a bunch about, I mentioned it last thing, including the vegetative space, or excluding the vegetative space from the 2,500, 5,000, and 10,000 feet in the county. I think that'd be something to give a little clarity on now, because that's something we're doing right now, get that up right now. And then, I believe one of the really important issues that we mentioned before was the adult and medical designations for the people. We're taking it away from the county, but has how it deals with the state. And if we have any input on the state to stop them, because it's restricted to adult or medical, that's going to really make a big difference for us.
So again, are these topics that we've been working on as a working group? Okay. All right.
The last two were among the ones that when we did the voting on the most important topics, they weren't the first of the ones, those microbusiness and transferability, but they were close on the list.
Okay. And there was a choice made at that point that this is going to be part of
something that was of importance to most people.
Okay. I'm sorry, I just happened to see her first. So everyone, we're going to get to everyone. Go ahead, Lynn.
Okay, what I have is an issue with the ordinance and a particular clause in the ordinance, but it hasn't been part of working group. I came last time and asked to add it.
Okay, so let's set this aside. So if you came last time, and I'll just kind of reiterate, kind of a transfer of the working groups to myself. So what we're trying to determine right now is what have we been doing, and get us to continue on path, and then add some things if need be. But what I'm not wanting to do right now, because I think it would be too confusing, at least for me today, is take a list of things that we want to start addressing.
Can you put the section number down?
How you and I talk about that afterwards, and you give me that information. I will find out if this working group is the appropriate place for it.
Okay.
But I will get you moving on that.
Okay.
All right.
My comment was that for your benefit,
Yep.
we are going to probably be asking the county, and you're on the line,
Sure.
to make recommendations to the state in an official way. And everything that we are bringing forward, particularly in addition to what you have remembered from maybe the last meeting, we will be sure that you're aware we want these things to have equal importance when we're again presenting to the state.
I understand. So what I'm trying to do today, and it's so we do things, so I can do things efficiently, is the information we've been working on, and then offline if need be, and if it needs to be after the meeting quickly, I will hear from you guys what you feel hasn't been tackled here and what is important. We'll find out and determine if this is the place to tackle it or if it's been done somewhere else. So again, I'm not trying to limit in any way what we do here. I'm trying to make it manageable for me, just simply so I do it efficiently and I don't drop the ball.
Yeah, before you go, there's going to be another step at the end of that exercise.
There's going to be some more. Okay, someone else over here, and I'm coming back around.
Kelly, there is, last time we got the full list of the priorities that we were originally asked. So many of these topics might be on there. What we had originally determined in this working group quite a long time ago was that the process would be that we'd first tackle like the first top 3 to 5 tips. And then as we were done with things, we would then raise up additional issues. So I think it would be helpful if we can, again, as a group, agree on the next comments, things as we're done.
I agree with that, and I am in no way trying to eliminate that process. I'm simply trying, I guess what I'm trying to ask is you give me a little bit of today to get up to speed and such with what we've been doing and then what we're going to add next.
So Kelly, you been supplied with any of the tasks, like agendas or new topics?
I have been able to get some, yes. Okay. So,
Do you have this?
I don't know if I have that with me today.
Did you have it?
I've seen it, yes. Okay. All right. So if we want to go on to 2, if we're comfortable at this point, and comfortable with what we've added under the bullet points, again, we'll have the ability to bring this together. I promise you. Everything will get heard and everything will get dealt with. So how do you want to tackle microbusiness? Was this something that went, was this something that was a committee was working on or someone was going to report on?
There was a committee.
Okay.
We led the committee. We found out about the document, as a group, we found out about the document a few days ago.
Okay.
That was being submitted today at the planning commission meeting.
Okay.
Jude and Stuart went through, full hours, working the wee hours, line by line by line. I think, the document that was presented to the planning commission today, there were other things that didn't really relate directly to the document, that were other recommendations that we brought up at the planning commission meeting today. Okay. Some of them are, I can start detailing some of those.
Well,
maybe Jude wants to give a brief synopsis of what that was like. But I introduced a couple of things today as well. A microbusiness could be the thing that saves the small farm.
I'm just gonna, because I'm trying to again double back. So something that was presented today,
Yeah.
Does that mean the working group work on this issue was done?
Yeah. Yeah. We CC'd you.
Okay.
What we sent at 8 o'clock yesterday morning was the deadline we were given at the last minute to send something in for the planning commission for today. So did you get that?
I don't remember seeing it. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just being very honest with you. This is kind of a
So on the copy, we have a cover letter that gives context for this, and then this is the results of our doing just what I just described, sort of line by line of what the county staff recommendations to the planning commission were, and our sort of input on that.
Okay. Do you want to give us a synopsis of that, or Mary Lynn?
I can give a synopsis.
There we go.
Yeah, just
Perfect.
to tell you that the information that was submitted from the working group and then also other comments received from the public today, the county, the direction from the planning commission to staff to take a look at these, incorporate what we can, and then we will take those to the board of supervisors. I think it's the first part of May. But with that, I think the working group still needs to proceed, because realistically, the working group was kind of, it was they have to give their reports to the board. If I remember correctly from the very beginning, it's going to go to the board. Because we have the commission part of it. It came from planning commission. Unfortunately, it was submitted yesterday. It's been for a while as far as the packet. It's been for, because it was being used, so the packet has been there for several weeks. So it's supposed to read.
No, I understand that. Let me clarify that. It was posted, and I saw it weeks ago, but the rest of the group didn't see it there.
Okay.
And so they just made a rare to just we actually for this.
So the planning commission and staff really had no time to digest what was submitted. We really went over, we saw some things that we wanted to build on, and we think they're important and could be placed into it. Other things, not so much, but that's our role. So anyway, I think at the board, first part of May, then we'll probably get some more direction. That's what I'm guessing. And I think even, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe these will start happening at the state level too next month. Because the time we get to the board, will there be some different changes going on?
They were supposed to have a meeting because they didn't get all the agenda things in the way.
Okay.
And they were supposed to have a meeting in April. They said they were going to. I just
got that 2 days ago that they're not, so the next, every meeting, bi-weekly meeting, maybe 17.
So what do you suggest? Because you said you had suggestions or thoughts. The working group continue. What do you suggest we should proceed with?
If they're on it today, we'll have something to, but you know, with the board, you never see it until the very end. So that gives them not all the time to digest what staff has done.
Okay.
So when they get to the board, I think there's going to be back and forth. I would be surprised if they didn't maybe continue it to another point with more direction. That's my guess. I'll be surprised.
I actually think that there's two things that we can do here is we can list the things that we can still work on, because I believe, and I'm sure Mary Lynn agrees with this, that this is going to be more than a one-shot thing, because this topic is so difficult for microbusinesses, and that while it's a really good start in terms of the presentation to the board, there are going to be refined issues and topics that have not been troubleshooted yet that we can continue on and troubleshoot, knowing that those issues are coming down the pike. So while other working items might be, okay, now this is done, I think that this is one that's going to be kind of on our plate again for a little while until all aspects of it are done. And I think that we can separate out maybe the working group in retrospect, because none of the rest of the working group got that document. Right.
Our working group?
Yeah.
Oh, this was
This working group did not get your subcommittee document.
I sent it to the bigger.
I didn't get it. So anyway, so I think that what we should do is we should have some process where all working group embraces that document so that it can be presented as
one document.
Exactly.
Yeah, several pages.
Right.
I worked on this as well, and I say that my opinion, as far as the deadline, I think this is like a lot of my comments, and I think this is not enough time, and I totally agree that this is a work in progress, and that we should continue to work on this. This is really difficult.
Yes, it is.
And it's not something you put out at the last minute.
Who has been on the microbusiness committee then? Who is?
There's one of us here.
Okay.
And a copy, and I'll right now will send this to the larger group.
Okay.
But I think we made tremendous strides, because this, what we were starting with was a big, pretty lengthy, complicated set of recommendations from the staff. And that just to give you just
Sure.
a sense, instead of you process alone, and I do agree with what everybody said so far about we have to continue this. Just a sense of the salient issues that we identified is that we really need to have a redefinition of microbusiness, bring it up to speed to where something in line with where the state is. And I think the one that the county is working off of is a little bit dated, so we had some ideas about that. And then moving, allowing multiple premises with the microbusiness licensing process as an accessory and extra activity to the main license activity. We had quite a bit of problems with the restrictions on zoning allowances to accommodate all the various activities within microbusiness. And then transferability remains a very difficult issue. Also moving from use permits to administrative permits, from administrative permits to zone clearance. I think it's streamlined and simplified. It's lots to it.
Okay. Now, Linda mentioned there were several documents. How do we want to go about making that one document?
I can simply forward the report document that I created to Jude, and then she can share it with the subcommittee, and you can integrate as you wish into one document. And I think that was it. Did Casey send in anything?
No, Casey didn't have anything.
There was, Paul had something, Paul had something, Hannah, Jude, Casey was pretty, I mean, he just says they agreed with the reason.
Okay.
So I think because now the whole group needs to see what Jude did,
Right.
her group, then you guys come together and come up with one.
Yeah.
one recommendation.
Okay.
And if anyone wants copies, I think Victoria's posted everything on the planning website for today or the planning commission meeting.
Okay. So the steps for this then are all the documents, individual documents people have, up to June. Is that correct?
And we'll put them together, yeah.
Okay.
I'm
All right.
sure of that. This is not, the document's not fully vetted.
Okay.
And
Enough time for full discussion.
So all the documents are going to the subcommittee. Let's call it that.
And then I would like to see, and sometimes it's not possible because of when we meet versus when things happen, but I would like to see whatever future subcommittee work come back to the working group so that we can have a full-throated embracement of the document as a presentation.
Before it gets.
Whatever commission or board or whatever, and that way we don't wind up having other little documents also.
Okay. All right.
I know, but sometimes the dates just don't work also.
They don't.
Yeah.
This went out to them. I don't think that the document should be influenced by any deadline. I think you need to document or it needs to be, or everyone's vetted it, and then have enough time.
But Stuart,
Yeah,
and Stuart, also, there's a balance sometimes between wanting to keep certain issues moving forward rather than waiting on a final everything about everything. And so that's unfortunately how we often wind up having.
No, I understand. And I totally agree with you, set it off, and you'll give feedback from my perspective, I'm kind of a real deep kind of person, and I really detail.
So the committee, what do you need from staff, be it me, to make this happen, of all these documents getting to you and you putting them together?
Give you more time to do it, and then we might have to discuss it.
So, and,
Try to come up.
all right. So as far as the time, again, we're kind of driven by what you do with it and who you want to see it when. And, I can get you the expertise, but I cannot tell you that jumping in and viewing this document is going to add any expertise to it at this point, I think.
So,
Marilyn.
I believe that the board meeting is tentatively May 8th. Kathleen,
Yep.
Staff's gonna look at anything, we're talking, we want to buy in April, because we need to have turnout. But, realistically, I think we have the majority of the stuff from what we've been doing, and that's what we're gonna take part of that. And the new stuff that comes in, that will just have to be discussed with recommendations from the board of directors. Because it's something new to me, that the planning commission didn't review, it's first off, but the direction of the planning commission was to take a look at micro businesses and take into consideration the comments made. So I think I have a little leeway there.
Okay.
I'm taking it back to the planning commission.
I think considering, speak for the rest of the group, but especially considering yourself. If anything is unclear, you have any questions about these comments? You may.
No, we don't.
Okay.
I wouldn't hesitate.
No, please do, because
I believe Mary Lynn's idea of kind of mid-April, which is pretty soon, of being able to kind of look at this is a good idea if we want it to be some May 8th. Is it outrageous to think you guys can kind of get the documents you have and the information you have together and make one condensed thing of it in a week or so?
2 weeks.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to find a realistic,
Hours, and then you try to do a miraculous job.
Huh? I hear you, man. That's all it is. I hear you.
Enough time for everybody to get back to work, and I totally respect that. And that, from my perspective,
Okay.
more work and give some treatment and things that people will, it's what part of the ministry is on that document that has to do with how the training and people get the licenses terminated. It's really well written, it's way over the line. Whether it's just there's some ambiguity or.
Why don't we try to put what we have together? It does not have to be perfect. Get it to the group as a whole. and hopefully we can move it quickly from there. Yeah. Okay.
So, I have a suggestion
Please.
of how to do this. If we can take May 8th as the end time frame for this particular round of stuff. Not that there won't be additional rounds of issues having to do with microbusiness, we know that there will. But for this particular shot in front of the Board of Supervisors, we would love to have a embrace overall working group presentation to the board regarding microbusinesses. So if we can work back from there with what there already is, and perhaps maybe schedule a final phone conference to just get the buy-in from the working group after the
It's just that the back time from the 8th, about the amount of time it takes for staff to actually process whatever we can put it in and get the board of supervisors in a timely manner. I don't want to go the full 2 weeks long. We take to get, you don't want to get that.
Exactly.
So give them very little time to look at it before they get it. I don't want them to have any.
Exactly.
We have to have the staff to run and posted by a certain time, even though, and it's a long time before you guys ever see it online. I mean, we've got to have stuff done, so.
So that's a deadline.
I'm just trying to see if I can do it from here, and looks like, I see us working on this, what we got from the planning commission and all of you today, I see will be what we're working on next week. So, and we need it by April 16th.
That's what I think we should take, your document, Hannah, what you've got, Stuart, everything you've got, in addition to.
We're working on that now, so I can consider that already.
Yeah, but what you've got is.
If you come up with something new or different or whatever, then.
What I'm saying is that you're working on it next week, then he needs to respond to whatever you come up with before the 8th in a timely fashion.
Right.
So that's why I'm trying to just consolidate what we've got and give to you again as quickly as possible.
The 16th is a compromise, 10 days.
Okay.
Okay, well,
Originally, we were going to go to the board on the 24th of April, which gives us no real turn.
well, you know, what, I think we have to eliminate one step here. You've already got a bunch of stuff to work.
Yeah.
You got Hannah, Tracy, we got the stuff on one.
So you come up with something, and that's what we're going to do.
And we'll respond to that in a timely way, so that the board is.
Well, but
Well, you won't see that until it's regular.
we won't get that until Friday or the Tuesday.
All right, I see. Right.
Okay.
So when do our next round is?
16th.
Honestly, what we have from you right now is what we're going to work with. Anything new coming out,
Yeah.
it's going to have to come from the working group, I think, directly to the board.
That's what I was hearing. That's what I was hearing. So this is it, yeah, okay, I get it.
Okay, but frankly, even direction to be to work on what they've received.
Yeah.
Anything new would be another agenda.
No, it's not like you should staff.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
But that, no, thank you, should be staff, but direction, just on the direction, submit stuff to that.
Anything new that you come up with, I don't think that the board won't be able to hear it, it's just where those are. But I think from what we heard today, and things we would afterwards, I think, we know where it's supposed to head to. It's just a matter of finding the right answer for that.
Right. I think it's pretty much got the bulk of it, except perhaps Stuart. You have some particular things that you.
I think Alex was really sorry, but I forgot to send my comments. Then flip sleep and then in the morning goes up.
I'm just going to revisit them. What I'm hearing now is that you guys have the information you need to work with or can work with. Okay. There's additional information that the group has that they feel is important. Okay?
We didn't have enough time.
Hey, we hear you, man. That's what I'm saying. We got it. So what do we want to do as far as deadlines, as far as presenting this information? Since it's not going to go to the staff. They've got what they've got and they're working with it. Our plan for additional.
We're aiming for the board. We're aiming for the
So if it's May 8th, let me just say, if you have it submitted a week ahead of time, love it, Because that way, even though planning can't really comment on it, we can at least take a look at it ahead of time, knowing when we go to the board if something comes up that we can address in
So
here.
for us, it's May first.
So it would be really ideal to have it at least, the stuff before, just,
No.
yeah, but first of the month.
Okay.
But I think that we should really try to make it just things that haven't already been covered.
Yeah,
Right, yeah,
exactly.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. And do we know how to do that?
Yes.
Do we know? Okay. All right. Wonderful.
So,
No, go ahead. Okay. Transferability.
How many hours?
Less than one.
We've been working on that quite a bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Does everyone have a copy of our transferability?
can you in the future label what the documents are?
This is the background on the top?
Really are.
This is a transferability report.
I like pie charts.
Subcommittee of the building of the state and local.
Okay. You want to lead? All right. Wonderful.
So we have been working diligently on creating a recommendation to go before the board. Since everyone gave their feedback at the last working group meeting and how we should format the letter, the first draft was more just bullet points, requesting a full paragraph. So in the interest of keeping the document not a novel, we've condensed it, and our hope is that as we recommend for this recommendation to the board, that we can also include a PowerPoint presentation where we can put in some more visual data and maybe go a little bit more in depth. So I'll just go ahead and read this if you guys want. So the first part of it is background. Medical Cannabis Cultivation Ordinance, MCCO, Chapter 10A17, was drafted by HDL, a consultant to the County of Mendocino, and approved by the Board of Supervisors on April 4th, 2017. MCCO and Chapter 20.242, the Medical Cannabis Cultivation Site Code, went into effect May 4th, 2017, authorizing new cannabis cultivation legislation and regulations in the unincorporated area of inland Mendocino County, known as the Medical Cannabis Cultivation Regulation, and we'll refer to it as MCCR in the future. And implementation of the MCCR, the Board of Supervisors has repeatedly acknowledged that more revisions and amendments were needed and required. And the board authorized the staff stakeholder working group address the need for additional changes to the MCCR. The working group chose cultivation permit transferability as the second most needed and pressing ordinance amendment. The following recommendations pertain to language in the MCCR which eliminates the cultivation of cannabis on a previously permitted parcel if the permit changes for whatever reason, except for transfers as follows in Chapter 10A17, letter A, straight from the ordinance. All permits are non-transferable to another person, except that the permittee may transfer the permit to a spouse, domestic partner, child, parent, and or for the estate planning purposes, to a trust in which the permittee serves as a trustee. Provided the trust existed on or before January 1st, 2016, which transfer shall not be deemed a change in ownership for the purposes of this chapter. Summary. The provision in Section 10A17.070A is an issue that affects existing permitted cultivators. Cultivators, banks, and investors will be reluctant to make significant investments if there is no guarantee that the infrastructure and business investments involved will have longevity and sustainability for business development. This is an economic development for stable and sustainable business growth. There is no similar regulation anywhere in the state of California. To put a successful MCCR program, cannabis businesses need to be treated equally with all other businesses in Mendocino County. Section 10A17.070K needs to be removed from the ordinance. Resolution number 17, project number 7746.12, mitigated negative declaration prepared by Laco Associates on November 7, 2016, will not be impacted by a change or removal of Section 10A17.070.
language because it is not a California Environmental Quality Act consideration. Mary Hunt, Mendocino County Senior Planner, confirmed with Ms. Burks of Waco, an author of the MND, next iteration, that permit transferability did not pertain and was not addressed in the MND. It is safe to say allowing owner flexibility will not create any new environmental impacts and/or cultivation sites. Currently, parcels in TPV, FL, and RL are being phased out on June 30th, 2018, which should still be allowed to transfer existing permits to new permittees in New Jersey. Since land use granted will have already fulfilled the requirements of all local and state environmental agencies. All of these agencies, Mendocino County Planning and Building Services, Mendocino County Department of Agriculture, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, North Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board, and CAL FIRE impose rigorous environmental regulations and enforcement of those regulations. Their compliance conditions are not required by any other agricultural endeavor in the #1 agricultural state in the country. The regulation requirements and the enforcement of these requirements will ensure that any permitted property is environmentally safe and appropriate for cannabis cultivation. It must prove, among other things, that it has an appropriate and legal water source, that its roads meet the standards of the Forest and Rural Roads Handbook, Weaver Williams 2015, that sediment runoff is not being created, that no cultivation is occurring on a slope over 30%, and that sensitive habitat and sensitive species are not being impacted. These rigorous requirements strongly address the concerns that TPV, FL, and RL parcels may be unsuitable for cultivation. The TPV, FL, or RL parcel has proven its ability to meet all of the land use permitting requirements. Transferring ownership of the permit should be granted to a new permittee on the original parcel beyond June 30th, 2018. The reason for change. The Transferability Working Group respects the time constraints of the board, so we provided our top 3 priorities for change. Number 1, permittees that currently cultivate cannabis need a pathway to transfer permits if they would like to change their obligated and legal responsibility for any reason, including adopt their land but not hold the permit in their name any longer, retire from an active role in cultivation due to illness or advancing age, business or career changes, and/or separation of joint partners. As all other county business licenses, a cultivation permit holder should have the right to sell their business to a new owner and transfer the MCCR with its obligated and legal responsibilities of permit compliance to a new parcel owner or permittee. The permittee or property owner can reapply for a permit renewal upon expiration of the original permit until 2020, when the county intends to accept new applications without proof of prior cultivation conditions. And number 3, a cultivation permit should run with the land for the following reasons. Number 1, all government agencies with their rigorous environmental requirements must be satisfied to permit cultivation. Number 2, just as vetted and mitigated use permits run with properties, a cannabis farm should not be structured or constrained in any farm, vineyard, orchard, dairy, hotel, retail, warehouse, or factory, etc. The recommended action. Under Section 1017.070, letter K, to state, all cultivation permits are transferable if the original permittee holds the original application receipt or permit for 2 years from issued date of approval. The permit may be transferred if the compliance conditions on the parcel remain the same as when originally permitted. The original permittee must maintain at least 51% ownership for at least 2 years before a transfer of more than 51% will be allowed. The new permittee will be subject to a background check and must meet all requirements to qualify for said permit for existing cultivation parcels under MCCR. And number 2, amend Section 20.242.04B. The section contains nearly identical language to the amended section above and should be deleted or revised as Section 1017.070. And we included just a little pie graph. This data comes from the mitigated negative declaration, phase 1, of the amount of available parcels that they indicated in all these zoning types. And we're showing that we're utilizing only 30 acres currently from the actually approved, permitted permits in the county. When you total up the, the 1,000 square feet cultivation sites, there's 85 of those, all that. So as a kid, we're only using 30 acres out of over 1,788,000. And of course, there's more to be issued,
Yeah.
but just for round,
No, you're
I
right.
highlight that. Look at it.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, first off, great job, and thanks for so much work.
Before we start discussion of this, could I just ask a defining question? Is there a reason why the transferability is only applies to cultivation and not manufacturing, retail, and other businesses in this county?
Yes. Because of the lands that they were trying to phase out, because the phase one only allows, permits to have proof of prior cultivation, that they can put proof of prior cultivation.
But it's a business question in terms of transferability of your business license.
It is not a logical answer. It's a prejudicial
But
answer.
FLCCC file phased out in June of this year for new applications and membership prior cultivation.
But you're still tying it to cultivation. Is there any reason why transferability permits cannot be associated with other sectors of the?
What get a micro-business?
Oh, I see. So,
Yeah,
so if we set aside cultivation as your question, if we set aside cultivation,
Yeah.
is there a reason? And really, it's kind of, I would say, akin to AC, make somebody apply. So it's, and I would, this is one of the first things that I was going to actually comment on, is I'm wondering if the term transferability is really the right term, because what we're saying is the person should be allowed to allow somebody else to step in and continue, but that person has to qualify. And so that's where it's not really a transfer of the existing permit, it's the allowance of a new permit to be able to continue. So, for example, under alcohol licenses, if you can sell your alcohol license, but it's 100% conditioned on the person applying to ABC and going through all the rigmarole and of being approved. So I was wondering, so if under the alcohol licenses, they don't, we'd see it in the law, it says it's non-transferable, which is accurate. So I'm wondering if we remove the language transferability and instead adopt the parallel language of ABC, which is, while they're not transferable, they are sellable, conditioned on the applicant.
There's a
big difference between a business and paperwork and a piece of property where you can fix an infrastructure. But I understand that, but that's what I'm exactly addressing, is the fact that for cultivation, because she was asking about non-cultivation. I was just trying to.
Commercial enterprises. One is commercial cannabis cultivation, the other is commercial cannabis retail.
Okay, neither, and even at the state level, none of the licenses are transferable. So that's why I'm suggesting that we move away from the term transferable and instead use are eligible for a new applicant. And that might solve some of the issues. And then getting to Corinne's statement with respect to cultivation, there's two separate requirements. There's the land has to qualify and the person has to qualify.
Because that means the standard that Noah was suggesting, that is that committee put together, which is how do you get investors and bankers without the very just.
Look, can I just ask you something very involved in this? And this needs to be discussed much more with this committee, because I completely and totally am on board with what Ann is saying, and if they're trying to expose to them, I personally did some major use permit application, the public hearings and all that, and they don't totally understand. There's two issues here. There's the setting of the land, and then there's the license to do a business or do some type of use. And those need to be separated, and this is not clear in this document. And we need to discuss this more, because there are two issues with the land, and it's like you have a hotel.
Let me throw something else in this works here. The issue is the same with land, all right? And one of the things that's stopping that is the county has a provision that wishes the current owner his permit, he was extinguished and destroyed. That infrastructure that's been built in there must be destroyed. They're one of the main stumbling blocks for what we're doing transferability right now. You should be able to sell your garden and you have a micro business, your manufacturing facilities. I got too old to do it, but you want to do it, here we go. And that infrastructure goes with the land, with the use. Does the person applying who's going to buy this for that reason have to go through the background check? Of course, just like anybody else who's doing the business. So, but destruction is one of the things that's pretty, in my mind anyway, that really puts a stumbling block on this, and I don't know why it's even there.
This is why it's there, the way the ordinance was written. It's not written like normal business.
No, that's what I mean.
So it's there. Hey guys, stay focused.
I do want to say that, with the interest of our timing, to get all of this put together, we were, struggling with the same issue, not enough time. And Stuart brought a lot of really good points to the table, but we didn't have enough decision with amongst our subcommittee to include that in this morning's report. And just in speaking with him momentarily just for earlier about it, I understand what he's saying. How we can relay this information to the board in a way that makes logical sense is the important thing for all of us. And it's a tricky one. We're asking for this and that, and so I want to get feedback from this committee on what we need to change in this language so we can get this with the right wording. And I gave this document to Sarah Duquette because she wasn't going to be here today, and she just came in and gave me just a few little notes of things that she would recommend. Not really anything major, but so I would want to incorporate her, there's a few just technical errors and stuff.
How would you like the information that people would like to add to get to you?
Well, we have a Google Doc, and we've been working with that, and people can add their edits there with a certain color, so we can see where everyone's at. But
no, I just wanted to say that I think that if we have this is such a well-done document.
It is. It's wonderful.
And I think that I really do. And what I was originally starting to say was that I was just recommending, I was trying to be specific, a recommended suggestion for everybody to consider is in the sentences that refer to transfer existing permit, anywhere where it says transfer, if we could come up with suggested language that conveys that the permit remains, in place for purposes of the land, and it's just the new ownership.
Transfer of stewardship.
Does it make sense?
Okay.
Now, this issue, I have it really clear in my mind that I really have time to discuss with the subcommittee, but I have
But can I just finish what I was trying to present?
Okay.
Just let me, and then I'll shut up and let everybody else talk, I promise. The other question that I think needs to be addressed here is we need to be specific about phase 1 versus phase 3, because phase 1 requires proof of prior cultivation. And so if you're going to suggest that signed of new person should come in, then I think it's only fair to require that that person also, if they're applying in phase 1, have to prove proof of prior cultivation in the county. And one last comment, and then I'm done, and that is that I've actually tried to bring up this issue, which I think is coming to the Board of Supervisors on the 10th, this Tuesday, to separate out the proof of prior cultivation for the property and the person, so that if a person can prove proof of prior cultivation that in the county, and they want to apply for property that has also been cultivated on, that the two don't have to be married, so that if it was a tenant or if somebody's moved for environmental reasons or whatever. So this would dovetail nicely into that as well, where if it's during phase 1, there's recognition of having to prove that by the person in addition to the land having, if everybody else in phase 1 is required to do that.
Yeah.
And that's it, and sorry, go ahead.
Correct.
No, Stuart talked.
Okay, Stuart, go ahead. And we're focused on providing solutions for this document and for
Dan and I are on the same page. One of the points I want to bring up is that I know a number of times the word transferability because it's a hot word and it's too specific. And I keep calling it license ownership flexibility. Because it also has to do with having a corporation that might own 40%, somebody else owns 55%, or having a partner.
Okay.
There's no flexibility. You can't, if I get run over,
We understand, we get it, we got that part, yeah.
Everybody, and we discussed this work, that they keep mixing up the license, cultivation license, and there's really two issues. There's the land that gets vetted, just like any other use permit, and then there's the benefit of having a license to cultivate on that property. And there are two separate things that we need to really hash this out and make it really clear that I really strongly see this. We need to have some type of acknowledgement on the land that that land can be certified or has a use permit and pass over that. And after 2020, someone could come in and say, I want to grow
Okay,
there.
what is the language, one more time, that you use, the three-word term?
License ownership,
License ownership, it could be a use permit, it could
Right.
be acknowledgement or certification that that land is completely vetted.
Right.
To give people an incentive to go through the financial,
Got it.
emotional process, and then you can then later on go through a permitting application for the cultivation ability to do that. That's a separate thing from the land.
We understand that we're trying to figure out how to communicate. Okay.
The process that I haven't down.
Okay, correct.
Okay, the biggest problem for a group like ours trying to put recommendations forward is that we have been following this process whereby we take the ordinance and we take that language and then we try to address it and change it. And so that's the process we have been using. But in addition to the clarifications that we're all wanting, we have to delete the language in the ordinance that extinguishes cultivation use from the cultivation ordinance. Once land has been vetted, and we're allowing these opt-out years so you don't necessarily have to grow this year, and if we're allowing a vehicle for ownership flexibility, we could get rid of the language that extinguishes the right obtain a permit or a license on that person.
So how do we do that?
That's what the board has to delete from the bloody ordinance.
So I don't know.
But that is a huge thing that gets lost, and I know we brought it up here and we'll continue bringing it up to the board, that they tend to just ignore that very serious ramification. So if we can get them off distinguishing things, thinking that they're going to reduce the number of parcels on which we can grow in this county, it's totally counterproductive to everything else that we're doing.
One of the, if I can just add kind of, and I don't know if this is helpful or not, but you know, when I come into this from the outside, it's like an ocean. So there's so many things like this. There's so many things to do, and they're all moving and such. And the frustration that I hear in all of us all the time, or myself, is it's just this or that, or it's all underlined. And I'm finding, at least for myself, if I'm focusing on one thing, and if it is, in this case, underlining, getting this part of the ordinance, redlining this language, and then figuring out how do I get this removed. You know, or like literally trying to focus on one little thing at a time, because something goes to the next,
Well,
but it's just an overwhelming feeling.
NA 1707.
Right, exactly. Right.
That was the starting.
So we make it smaller and we deal with that one part at a time when we start doing the parts. That's the suggestion.
A year ago, when I was sitting before the board and the planning commission with my pet issue, one of the things that really seemed to make a huge difference to the board was when I itemized how much it was costing to do all of the things on the land to get one. Yeah, so I'd recommend you add, just go through and list it out.
I think it's the presentation I'm thinking for the PowerPoint.
Mary Lynn.
So I like that idea because what I've never seen, and I don't think the board ever sees, is how much big cost
Yeah.
is. You guys tell us that all the time, but I really see it.
Okay.
Well, sometimes too much information doesn't help you. you've got to keep it very concise and say, you know, the county permit costs this, you know, the state permit costs this.
Fish and wildlife costs this, water board costs this.
What are our
Yeah,
steps?
very
Okay, this,
short.
hold on, I'm just getting this what I'm trying to do is get us, we got a half hour. We got an hour left today. What are our steps we want to do right now with what Mo has presented and with,
I have specific language.
okay, and then we got, all right. Okay, yeah.
Okay, if everybody could look at the paragraph on the bottom of the first page saying currently.
Yeah.
First, I would recommend that we separate out the TPZ forest land and rangeland issue as a separate hybrid issue, because I think that we should allow for continued permits under new applicants regardless of zoning. I do believe that the rangeland, forest land, and TPZ issue needs to be addressed because the board was intent on phasing it out through natural attrition as opposed to sunsetting. Those are two separate things. So I do believe that it should be addressed, but my recommendation for this paragraph is to raise it so that it says currently, not even doing currently, permits, start with the word permits should be allowed to continue under a new applicant. In a different section, deal with TPZ, forest land, and rangeland and that specific issue. But if we're basically changing the first sentence to it should be allowed to continue under a new applicant, and then it goes, since the land use granted would already have fulfilled the requirements, blah, blah, blah.
You getting rid of that deadline, no,
Right.
I told
Out.
And not referring to the TPZ, forest land, and rangeland at that part, because I think that that's a slightly separate issue than the overall arching issue of our goal to allow any permit or license to continue with a new applicant. Avoids the word transfer and addresses the overarching issue. I do believe that the rangeland, forest land, and TPZ issue should be dealt with, but I'll just be
Here.
So I feel like my concern with that is that new permittees would be able to apply to get a permit on any parcel other than TDB, FL, and rangeland in 2020. So what really be
the so in that sense, there's different requirements in 2020 than there are currently. So somebody who is, let's say you are 40 and has a permit now, and they want to sell now as opposed to waiting to 2020, that's one thing. But even if they want to sell in 2020, then in a continual permit on that land with the old setbacks and the old water requirements, there should be no new setbacks applied, new water requirements applied, as will be required in 2020.
You can't have a new owner take it over.
But that's what I'm suggesting, is that if we allow that to continue with a new applicant, then all of a sudden the requirements that are being, and these, remember, these are all for people, again, this gets back to the individual applicant, if it's during phase one, should have to prove prior cultivation, because the only reason why the setbacks are existing and the water requirements at the county level are lower than they are going to be in 2020 is because these are existing people who have always been here. Well, if we say these are existing people and this property has existed under phase one, it'd be allowed to continue even with a new person. And that's a different set of requirements than phase two or phase three.
Also saying
Does that answer your question?
totally, I guess it does make sense to me. My only concern is that it's such a contentious issue with TPZ, FL, rangeland in the board, but I would be concerned that it would be key for them to reject that and adopt the other transferability if we separate out the two.
If we separate out TPZ, rangeland, and forestland, you mean? I think that if we include it, because I think it should apply to all, not just TPZ and rangeland and forestland.
Yeah.
We're suggesting that we specify rangeland.
I feel like I'm curious from you is if you have an idea for sort of a two-pronged approach where range, forestland, and TPZ are sort of dealt with on their own.
If I didn't really mean it that way, what I really meant was to address the concerns that are particular. So, for zoning, I think that this suggestion is pretty straightforward and should apply to all zoning. And then when we're looking at the issue in detail as it applies to rangeland, forestland, and TPZ, that's where, at least in dialogue with the board, I think it could get a little bit more of a sticky wicket. And so while we're asking for it to apply to everything, we can then focus our attention of addressing the issues particular to rangeland, forestland, and TPZ that might be of concern to them by addressing those concerns. So in other words, instead of trying to have a different rule for it, have a different focus of trying to anticipate their concerns about applying the same rule to those lands. Does that make sense?
It's one of the things that what we're all asking is that the person, the original committee, whether they're in phase one or let's say they apply in phase three, they have to hold that county permit for 2 years before they can transfer it. I don't know if that.
Was that too arbitrary and for 1 or 5?
I just thought it would satisfy some of the concern that the board has of why they're holding on to the decision because they don't want to see, new people come in and all the land get on.
Because I understand that concern.
Then I'd love to have no restriction, but.
Oh, would you better make it 5 years?
No.
I think it's better to make it 2020.
2020 is that.
Yeah, we don't need to do.
We're letting new people come into the county in 2020.
In the RL.
Yeah.
But then that 2 years shouldn't have to apply past 2020.
Well, then we would want to modify it in our thing, because if we were to leave it the way it says.
I was going to suggest that.
But then wouldn't it be that then it would be a different set of requirements? So if we're matching it up with 2020, then you're going to be stuck with the new 2020 requirements, which are different setbacks and water availability studies. So I guess the hybrid would be to say, don't match it to 2020. It does matter. 2020, yes, anybody new can apply, but there are these additional requirements that some properties may not be able to satisfy because they've been developed in accordance with the old.
Got a hand over here.
The legacy.
So this is
Legacy.
the solar ordinance 140 year. If you have a legal non-conforming use and you do whatever you're doing, 1 year to reinstate it, after 1 year it goes away. Sure.
Then we already can't apply to that use. Right. That's just currently in the code.
Right.
Got a hand over here, guys. Please, come on.
Yeah, I just want to know, does this have any relevance to me selling my business and ensuring and passing it on to a
No,
manufacturer or
this is only cultivation.
Correct, that's what I want to know. This is only, so I have no recourse, there's nothing that's going to come my bank on this, and you're asking what's going to happen.
So we need to include this in regular business then?
It involves cultivation.
No, only cultivation.
It's an ordinance. It's in the ordinance. Okay. So this gentleman's been very, very patient for 15 minutes. Okay.
So, I like what you're suggesting, it's a lot better than what we have. But I think one of the bigger problems versus having to transfer to somebody else is we go to a place like my neighbor works at an ag credit place. We've discussed them opening up to financing cannabis grows. So right now, I know if I went there and told them the story, the details of it, they'd be like, no, this is crazy, we can't do it yet, we can't. If we loan you $50,000 for your grow, but you can't fulfill it, we need as a financial institution to be able to have some ability to be now in charge of who gets that permit.
Sure.
So this situation with, okay, new people can take it on if they've already been growing
Like
before.
ABC.
It's definitely, it's a start, but this is what I'm talking about, where we can actually convince somebody to give us a small farm loan to get going. It would be way more useful to actually keep us going right now.
I think everyone.
And that's something that's newer for us, and that's why it was added in at the last minute, because I do believe that's a very strong point about talking about bank investments. It's in the summary of the very first paragraph. Bank owners and investors will be reluctant to make significant investments if there's no guarantee that that infrastructure and business involved will have longevity.
But we don't have an answer for how to solve that. We have answers for how to make it a little bit better. I'm not blaming you. You're doing a great job.
But that would be the same thing if you had, so I used to own a restaurant and music club, and I had an ABC license. And I bought that ABC license. I bought the premises, I bought the license. I had to qualify. My kids had to qualify. But it was an existing license. That was a license that was existing for that location. So it's not like any other industry in that sense, that you still have to go through these hoops to apply. So in that sense, the bank, and I got a bank loan from a credit union to do this, and it's a very common thing. If there are regulatory agencies that have certain hurdles, then who you're going to be able to sell to is going to be defined by who's eligible to that.
Yeah.
The state, it says it's all state licenses are non-transferable. But here's the difference, is number one, they don't have any phases of when you can apply for what. Number two, they don't restrict how many licenses you get. Number three, they don't deal with the zoning issues and everything else. So you could basically apply for a license and you want to sell it, then you can make a change. You can make a change application, change of ownership, and they might say the new owner has to reapply, or they might say, oh, okay, you've been a part of it with them and only this percent, now you're taking over, okay, you can do it. You really want to...
We have less than 20 minutes. Do we want to make sure we have a plan on what Mo is getting and what our plan is with this?
I think that's a good.
And move on?
I just want to comment that this is unique to our county board of supervisors. The surrounding counties, Santa Barbara is building out millions of square feet of indoor cannabis growth. We are limited, and we all know. And the board, I believe, thought that they limited transferability, that they would be reaching what they thought might be environmentally sensitive growers. But this is not the case. And exactly, that's why Mo and Jen put this together. They're not gaining, as you have been entrusted to do, raise their revenues. They are putting themselves in the foot.
So let's give them, when you find things like this and other things that don't make sense and don't work, that's as we are doing.
We've done that for years.
Okay.
Years.
So,
But here we have to work.
But here we are.
I know,
All right.
but
So
that's where I started. If we're still in the structure of taking established ordinance that the board has approved and having to go through paragraph by paragraph, line by line, to offer new language, yes, that's what we're doing. But it's the underlying prejudice that we're still not tendering.
Okay.
But this is the only vehicle that we have to be able to address those underlying prejudices.
you change the law, but you can't necessarily change how people think. It's easier to go line by line and do. Okay, what I'm trying to say is we can do this, all right? So you have a person dedicated to you and to this now. I'm no better or different than anyone else who's here, but I'm here now to do this, work with you, and to be the person that goes to the board. So what we do is exactly what this process is. We give them so many reasons, so well prepared, with numbers, with data, with what it costs, with these things, and we do this. So it can get frustrating, and we talk over and over about how unfair, but now we're going to change it, but it's not going to be easy.
We only had three board members.
Okay.
We now have 5.
So
I think they look at things a little different.
we're focusing ahead. What happened and how we got where we are now is a puzzle, or maybe it wasn't right, or maybe it was, or it made sense when there was no sense to be made. But now we are focusing ahead. Like, let's move ahead, and we are. We are.
With that, we have 15 minutes.
Yep.
So I want to get direction from everybody on what we need to change, the wording, if we're not going to do transfer or transferability, what that new word is going to be, or how we're going to phrase it. And I do want to touch on what you mentioned about the youth permit part, because I feel like you should say that to the group, because I want to get everyone on board with that idea, if that's what we're going to take in that direction. Otherwise, you might be discussing it amongst us as a subcommittee without the rest of the group invited to do so. Can you speak to that, what you just said
At a
earlier?
previous meeting, when the county council was here, and with Mayor Lynn, I brought up this understanding of these things, like the lodging permit, for example, and DOT, 14, 25%. And I brought up the issue of a hotel gets a use permit, so when I buy that hotel, the permit is for that. And then you get a new business.
Right.
Or if you're a restaurant, for example, if you already approved the restaurant, someone else comes into the restaurant or liquor license, they still have to be vetted to get their license to operate that business.
Yes,
But it's separate
understood.
from the acknowledgement on the land. And recall, Mayor Lynn at the time saying, we'll have all of our businesses, that's how it's done. And then the county council stated, if I recall correctly, he said the reason why this is different than any other business in Mendocino County is because of the way the ordinance was written. And quite frankly, from a business point of view, and I'm a former chairman of the county tourism and economic development. I'm one of the founders of our county business improvement district in Washington. I've been doing this story before, and what we're doing right now, what they've done is they've overreacted, thinking the whole county is going to be overrun with pot sellers, and now what you see is one.
Understood. So how do we move forward?
I'm trying to propose that because it's very mixed up. They're talking about permit on the land and then permit for cultivation.
Yes.
In my opinion, is to create 2 different pathways. One for letting of the land, just like the permit for the building, and the building gets a use.
Yes.
And so I believe that we need to have some type of acknowledgement of the expense and cost and stress to have that land go to all of the vetting through state and local agencies and get certified or get the use permit. So with the use permit that everyone goes back, it's always going to cost more money, but they don't realize how important that is because it goes with the land. Again, the mind of Echo Lodge is on my need. I bought it and then pass on it. If people go to this level of infrastructure, construction, and not have something permanent on the land, if the business passing, then someone else can come in and apply for cultivation.
How do we do it? So understood. It's how do we do it?
Well, one avenue is the building attorney to get an administrative use permit. After it passes this, then go to the land. And someone else later on can come and say, I want to grow. If it's certified land, that already has the permit, and then they go through the whole vetting process of getting the cultivation permit as a person or entity. And I think that we need to create a way that's not so complicated as a major or minor use permit application, because it's already happening. It's granted by the state and county. There should then be a stamp that says this property has gone through this and is eligible for future cultivation by cultivation application for cultivation, and the license for cultivation is different than the certification on the land. And I think there needs to be 2 pathways, and that cost needs to be kept down because the amount of getting in this process is extreme.
Understood. So we need to, if this is one of the things the group decides, is a working group they want to pursue, we need to start this process of finding out how, and then suggesting or going to the right people to have this created.
What do you think?
We already have the process in place.
Okay.
The permit application process, like already vetting the property for property profile, and we do already. So some some zonings require the use permit, some require administrative permit, and some just zoning permit.
But that, the process in the ordinance does not bring a use permit that goes with the land, that goes to stuff.
I've got a suggestion for.
Let's, okay.
In building the plan, if we're looking, we now have a permanent operation on the land, if it meets future criteria, that we can continue to help you.
Right. So it's
That's separate from.
to work in the ordinance. So the pathways are there is what we're hearing. So it's to work in the ordinance. So Hannah says she has to suggest.
I have two suggestions. One, to try and address what I understand to be Stuart's suggestion, is that not preliminarily, but that after a permit is already attached to a person or business and the property, that if somebody, even if they didn't need a use permit before, want to try to get a full use permit attached to the property for the 5 or 10 years or whatever it is, or so that property is certified for the longevity, that maybe what we could be suggesting here is that if people want to be able to have that separate certification of the property, that they're avail themselves of an administrative permit or a use permit or whatever that would run with the land. Okay, and that would then also require the new applicant, and that's my suggested word, instead of transfer, anywhere we have permitting, it's allowing a new applicant to qualify for the part that doesn't come with the land, that is particular to the person or the business. So that essentially we're suggesting that after for anybody who's already gotten their permits or in the hopper, if they don't want to, they wouldn't be required to do this, but that if somebody wants to do this, there is a newly established process whereby they can get their land certified for 10 years or whatever, and they can also then have a way in which new applicants can come in and continue on that land.
Is the appropriate way to kind of proceed with this, including this in Mo's?
I think so.
Okay.
I think that it is valuable if that's what everybody wants. But what I'm suggesting that if we do this, that this sure is, I'm torn because I hear what Corinne says. It's true that the structural way that this was always done, if we're confined to that, then we're just duplicating kind of some of the same structural problems. With that said, I feel like if we can present portions of this, like as what is here, with a little tweaking, and then flush out this other bifurcated process for another submission, it might be received more, and especially because every single time this issue comes up, it's been very difficult with the board, and finally, I am not 100% sure that they care about how much it's costing people. That's been very unsympathetic in the past. But.
So we'd have to continue with the redlining, as Corinne was saying, and one thing we would have to redline would be the destruction aspect.
I think destruction is only for transfer and extinguish. It's not for in general.
I understood it to mean maybe, that if you leave the property, if you sell the property, because it's not transferable, you have to extinguish the property.
No.
I know I transferred. I mean, I'll tell you my experience. I haven't sold my property yet, but they were basically like, if you sell that place, it needs to be spotless.
Yeah.
If you hold on to it, you can keep like your food houses and use them for vegetables and blah blah. But they were super hard ass about it. It was kind of stupid. So were you rangeland, CPC, for? No, I was R20, and my neighbors like went okay. So they were okay with food houses. And again, this is why food houses is somehow allowing employees into food houses.
Different working group, yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Okay, so we have 5 minutes.
Are we in consensus though about this? I don't want problems to come out
Yeah,
answers here
yeah,
today. I'm sorry.
I agree.
I don't know that asking for this use permit is the right way. I mean, I get what you're saying and the intent to it, but I don't know.
Okay, so what does the group, I mean, do we even at this point maybe even take a vote? How do we want to proceed with this? Do we want to keep focused on what put together? We all hear the concerns you guys have, okay? And for another avenue, what do we do?
I'm going to make a motion that we can vote on.
Okay.
My motion is that we, in the last few minutes, decide whether or not some of the specific language changes that I suggested are embraced by the group or not, that we take this other structural issue and agendize it for our next meeting, having this move forward as part of the presentation once tweaked, but not dealing with that larger structural issue until we've had more time amongst ourselves to flush it out and think of how exactly it should work and whether it makes sense. So that's.
And are we also going to be putting this together to go before the board, like this, on the 5th?
This is what we're determining right now, what our next steps are. Stuart, just hold, we you're at 4 minutes. We're, guys.
Quickly, a different issue, but just 2 sentences. To bring to the board, you have to extend the deadline for us.
You've got to stay focused on one thing at a time, and that gets us. This is what puts away the confusion, is when we do one thing and we put it away and we go to the next one. All right, so there was a motion by Hannah.
No, I think most follow-up question to your motion is appropriate, because if we're trying to get something together for the 8th, if we were trying to get something to present to the board by the 8th, given their attention spans and their lack of sympathy and empathy for this, I think we have to just streamline the very essence of what you've come up with to a couple lines. I like changing the word transferability, make it streamlined and simple, and say, this is what's going to happen. The ordinance is not working as you've written it, and we want to change it to this simple thing. And just take it from there.
So, did the writers of the document know everyone will be comfortable with the time to change this document a full week before the 8th, and
We can work on this.
or the 15th? So that would be like the 1st. She could have a baby. Oh, that's kind of where I'm going.
I'm already trying to figure out, can I come to this meeting?
Okay.
Well, you can't have the baby yet.
Do it.
Come up with suggestions, it doesn't have to be the final thing, but I think we can come up with some suggestions in the next few years. We'll go along, and I have some good ideas.
Okay, guys, this got off the rails a little bit today. So what I believe we should do, and this is, I'm not here to make the decision, I believe we should focus on the event you've created, the language as the group approves. Okay, and put as Hannah suggested, put this kind of, not larger, but the issue that kind of morphed out of this today on next agenda. Okay, and try to stay focused and move forward today with it. That would be my suggestion.
But we're going to have it finalized by what date? I need to know what day this is to be finalized.
That's my question. Are you precluding us presenting something simple and straightforward on the 8th to the board?
I'm not determining anything.
Because I don't think this meeting, this group won't meet before the 8th.
What year do we want it to be? 3rd.
Okay.
We want to start before the 3rd.
Well, then that's right.
I'd like to get this done in the board a week before, I have plenty of time to look at it.
I
don't know that this is agenda at all.
No, I don't know.
Can it be? Kelly?
Sure. I don't know necessarily what it was our date today. Today's 5th?
5th of April.
Okay. We get 15 days to get something, so it's on.
So can it be agenda to the 8th again?
On when?
This group?
Yes. First Thursday. I'm so sorry, guys. I feel like I'm failing you today as official day. Okay, so I just want to, I know, so let's do one thing. let's determine, we can move the date, let's determine what we want to do with this document, what we want to include in it, and then what are we doing with it? We're presenting it to the board.
You should find out what board date will work and when the posting deadline is.
Yeah, well, it's going to be at the earliest 15 days before a meeting. It has to be at least 15 days before, right? So we are not that, we're May. Do we, I could try to do, put it on something the 9th and May.
That's April,
April, okay. So don't have to give them 15 days notice. Right.
Put something on the agenda.
Right. What I'm saying is if the board meeting is the 24th, I'd have to give them notice on the 9th, all right?
And we want that document ready.
We should aim for later. I think we should aim for
Yeah.
okay. And I think we should regroup by email and such with our committees, with what we're working on, and kind of get it together.
Well, so I'm a little confused about the email stuff, because if the subcommittee is working on stuff, how do they know, just receiving various emails in response to what they did doesn't really...
How has it been done? We can decide this right now, what has worked and what has not worked.
How it's worked in the past is that subcommittees do the work and present back to the group, but we were not in the time crunch.
Right.
We have been, but
Right.
There was more time. And so that's not really feasible if we want to get it on the agenda.
Exactly. Okay.
Well, in my community, we often work on documents like this, and we do it by email. We have very few actual face-to-face meetings about it. Get out, usually a Word document in track changes so people can see. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I couldn't get Google Docs to work today, but
He has to be the final arbiter of if there's divergent opinions, and that's the part that I was just wondering, how do we work it?
face-to-face meeting, after you go through that,
We could call a special meeting.
Sure.
Let's have a bit. We're going to get this document fixed, updated, corrected, and then as a subcommittee, and then we'll give it to everybody in this larger group via email by a certain date, which we'll decide right now in the next couple minutes.
Okay.
And then we'll have enough time to take in all that feedback, to then fine tune it one more time, and then send out the final, and then we'll be good, and then we'll come to the next meeting with the final, but we'll have already given it to the board so that they have it for a week in advance. We're going to shoot for the May 8th deadline.
Let's determine our dates right now, what we're doing.
But we'll have already given it to the board, so does that make sense?
Okay. So the subcommittee or the committee, when would you like to give email the document to all of us? Is a reasonable time?
I'm going to work on this week, and not by Friday.
Friday,
Friday, but what about Monday?
you're not realizing.
Guys, okay.
I would like to insist that the subcommittee actually has a in-person meeting. And we discuss this together. The email thing is very important, and I think there's a lot of concepts to grasp here.
You're going to be coming from our...
Okay. If you're on a committee, the committee can determine that. You guys on the committee determine that.
Okay, why don't we say 5 minutes after the meeting?
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Mo, am I correct that by, what are we looking at? Friday the 13th?
Okay.
13's a lucky number.
Okay.
We'll have this document finalized.
Okay.
Ready to submit to everyone in the larger group. So
Okay.
on Friday, we'll be sending an email out to you by 5 p.m.
Oh, what do you think you're going to do?
This is the end of May.
Our goal then, what you're wanting is you're wanting this on May 8th with the board.
Yes.
May.
Time for everyone else to.
So the final document back to Kelly is what date?
May 1st?
No, I need to put it on the agenda. To be on the agenda, it's 15 days per reading.
You don't need the document?
You don't need the document.
I'm sorry? No, I don't need the document. I just need the,
We
no.
want to give the document to the board maybe
Right.
on May 1st, so they have a
Just a week's enough?
I don't know
usually we have to do it like 2 weeks before conference, because, I mean, it's about 2 weeks before.
I'm told I've been told 15 days,
Yeah.
which is 2 weeks and 1
You
day.
need the documents to him when you post. So
You need it.
I think.
Then,
In order to agenda, you've got to turn the document in.
No, they post.
so 24. If I'm putting slides of it, we're presenting something at the board. Okay. If it's like vignettes, I need that 15 days before. Okay. So that would be the 23rd of April, and that is like a hard, like the 23rd of April
24th.
would go to them. No, it's 15 days.
Oh, got it, okay.
Well, this works out great. So I'm going to give you guys the document on Friday, the 13th. We'll have the weekend to look at it. Let's get everyone's final opinion and everything by what day? 13th. What days you guys want?
Well,
No, we can give you a little more time because it's 10 days between the 13th and the 23rd. And I'd like to have a little more time. 13th is like next week.
I mean, what day do we want to set?
What do you want to do?
Give them feedback.
How about the 18th, sir?
that doesn't work, I mean, with tax day, it just doesn't work to go, that's the weekend and taxes are due on the 17th.
Yeah.
Let's get an extension.
We need to wrap up on this.
Yeah, but there's one other.
I understand that,
Paul brought up about the extension of the deadline, because we're all going to forget about that.
I understand.
That.
I have to wrap.
That gives you enough time, so then we'll have to get a document, no later than Monday the 23rd. Yeah. Which gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so the 18th would be the day that everybody's comments are due to Mo. Because you need at least those 5 days.
Yep.
To make sure that Kelly has that document by the 23rd.
And the 23rd is, and just the 23rd is delayed. There will be nothing we can do to go back to Clay. We will not be on the agenda.
And the
It's like
PowerPoint needs to also be.
everything to me, and that would be literally that morning is my deadline with Carla.
So if you're ending this meeting, Kelly, then Paul's point, which I think is critical, we'll have to take up in public presentation at 9 a.m., which is, we have to have that deadline extended.
Deadline for what extent? But that is not a working group. Is it? I mean, this has been.
It's always a word topic. It's always a word.
Okay. I tell you that is being considered, that we understand that there's a need. Okay? I can also tell you, and I don't want to be rude when I speed the meetings up like this, there's a reason, because I now have to go to another one. So,
Well, we all did.
Yes.
There was 2 quick items that I had that on the agenda.
I understand.
One was shared facility. I just want to tell everybody that the emergency regulation comment period closes on Sunday. Please make a comment, and please, we must bring this issue up to the board because we're going to need another license type